Hi, I'm Geoff Moore, and I'm going to be participating in the Info conference this in October. My role in the industry is I'm an author, a speaker, and an advisor. As an author, I'm probably best known for a book called Crossing the Chasm. It focuses on the challenges that startups face when they're trying to bring a disruptive technology into a mainstream market. And I use the frameworks in that book in my role as a venture partner at Wildcat Ventures. So I do spend every Monday with startups, working with them on crossing chasms and other challenges. The other book I'm probably best known for is my most recent one. It's called Zone to Win. It's about the same journey of bringing disruptive technology to markets, but it's from the point of view of an established enterprise. And it's all about the challenges of working between running your core business and investing in the new to catch the new wave. And it's a big challenge. And those frameworks I use in my advisory work with companies like Salesforce and Microsoft and Intel, as well as newer companies like Splunk and Box and Airbnb. So those are the roles I play, and what I want to contribute to the Info conference this month is to bring that perspective to the opportunities that we are all looking forward to. So why the Info Summit? Why do we bring together people once every 2 years to have a conference around the intersection of technology and the world? And the reason is that the world is in desperate need of help. And technology is one of the levers we can use to improve quality of life in the world. And so what we're looking to do at a conference like Info is find that intersection between the cutting edge of technology and the most urgent market needs. And one of the phrases we use for that intersection is we call it trapped value. And trapped value is where the existing systems in the world are actually holding us back. They were created to bring us forward, and for a while, they actually made us more productive. But as life goes on and as technology matures, last generation technology actually can hold us back from accomplishing next generation objectives. So the purpose of Info is to find that efficient frontier of investment, the very best place to take our best technology and apply them to our most urgent problems. And everybody who comes to Info has a role to play in that effort. And it's incredibly important that we do this about every 2 years. So when we think about that efficient frontier of where technology meets challenges, in my career over the last 4 decades, we've seen wave after wave of innovation. When I started in the industry, we actually were bringing the client server applications for supply chain. We call them the systems of record. We put them on the internet. We engaged China in the world economy. We engaged India in the world economy. We created a much better global supply network than we ever had before. It was an amazing accomplishment. And we were able to bring the cost and availability of many, many products down to a point where more and more people could afford them and more countries could participate. And frankly, developing economies could get a step up in terms of the global economy and participating in it. As we came into this century, a second wave of computing came around consumer computing. And so this was all about getting the digital device, the mobile smartphone, and Wi-Fi, the whole cloud computing connected by Wi-Fi. And all of a sudden, citizens and students and just ordinary everyday people had access to the incredible amount of information on the internet and to be able to the services that were available. We were able to digitally connect with people. And that initially started as just a kind of a consumer experience, more frankly around gaming and social media. But what has happened in the second decade of this century, actually the first and second, is that the enterprises and the governments, both the private sector and the public sector, have been able to reach out and use that fabric of consumer communication and attach it to the systems of record. So we call that systems of engagement. And the big effort of this last 2 decades has been, can we take the systems of engagement and bring them into our systems of record, connect the two so we can provide better services, both in the private sector and the public sector. And now we're on the verge of a third revolution, which is those systems of engagement all have log files that essentially show us how the engagement transpired. And we can look at those log files, we can analyze them with machine learning and artificial intelligence. We can see patterns. We can see patterns in the way machinery breaks down, and we can do preventative maintenance. We can see patterns, frankly, in criminal behavior or cyber warfare, and we can protect ourselves against them. We can see patterns of purchase interest, and we can advertise better. We can use artificial intelligence and machine learning to create smarter cities and smarter cars and smarter schools and better healthcare. That is where I am most excited about seeing the technology in the next decade, and I hope that a great deal of info will focus on that opportunity. So with all this excitement around technology meeting market need, obviously it requires an enormous amount of innovation. And I think many people have some anxiety about, well, how do you innovate, or how do you promote innovation? The truth is, people love to innovate. If you have children, you know that they love to innovate. Innovation is not actually our problem. We have a gift for innovating. What we have to do is to be able to bring that innovation to market in a responsible, scalable, reliable way. That's a big challenge, because responsible, scalable systems tend to have to be more conservative, and innovation tends to be more liberal. So what is required for that, to make that happen, is what we call an innovation ecosystem. And it has to be a balance of risk-taking and risk mitigation. And so what you see are specialized financial institutions like venture capital, specialized marketing institutions like high-tech PR, different kinds of recruiting, different kinds of business models. We have incubators, we have government funding, we have specific legal services to protect intellectual property. It's a very specialized set of needs when you're working at the cutting edge of technology. And what's required is that these special interests come together every so often to just check in with each other and make sure that the services are coming together to achieve the accomplishments we're trying to do. Silicon Valley has been very famous as one of those ecosystems. It is no longer the most famous. It may not no longer the most important, but it's certainly still iconic. It's where I live. It's the ecosystem I live every day in. But if you look to China, if you look to Europe, if you look to Cambridge in London, if you look to Bordeaux in France, if we're looking around the world, there are many of these centers of innovation which are coming together, running experiments with private and public partnership, trying to get the funding right. It's a challenge because it's a little bit like a very special recipe in a chef's kitchen, maybe in some wonderful restaurant in Bordeaux, where it's not always the same every time, and you have to sort of see what the ingredients are and make them work. So there's an art to innovation in the ecosystem, and so getting the artists together every 2 years or so, it's a very good thing so that they can share best practices and get better at what they do. So when I look at this field of opportunity personally, because I'm toward the end of my career, I think I've probably got another decade or so in me to do this. But why is this so important to me, and I think frankly to everyone that's going to participate in the conference? So we look at the world today. In one sense, the world has kind of never been better. It's hard to imagine that with all the negative news we hear, but life expectancies are better, economic conditions are better, whatever. But at the same time, there are these enormous challenges: political challenges, social challenges, healthcare challenges, educational challenges, freedom, crime, rule of law. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And what can we do as individuals? We're not dictators. We're just citizens of our countries. Well, one of the things we can do is we can improve the systems that support the ideals that we believe in. In my case, I come from a democracy. I want to support systems that support democracy, that support equal opportunity, that support diversity, that support all of the things that are kind of in the news right now. Well, technology can support that. They also, unfortunately, technology can be used as a weapon against these very same values. And so part of what I want to be doing, being deeply engaged in the industry, is to do my best to direct it to the best outcomes that I can imagine for it. And I do that as an advisor. I don't run a startup. I'm not an investor. I am just an advisor to the industry. But as an advisor, I think I have an opportunity maybe to stand back a little bit, to try to see the bigger picture, and then help people frame what's going on, and therefore be able to focus their energies in the most efficient and effective place, which is sometimes a challenge when you're in the middle of the smoke of battle. It's hard to see what's going on. And so I think it's occasionally helpful to have someone playing a role like mine to come in and say, well, here's what I think is going on. and here's how I think you can best proceed. A kind of on a personal note, people often say, well, how did you come to write Crossing the Chasm? Because Crossing the Chasm is about this very special journey of innovative startups trying to break their way into the marketplace. And the answer is, for the 10 years prior to becoming a consultant at Regis McKenna, which is where I saw all the patterns that led to the book, I was actually in startups. I was in 3 separate startups. And as I like to say, I took 3 products into the chasm and none out. So basically, it was a series of failed journeys that I had to process psychologically, and then eventually I realized, well, maybe it wasn't all my fault. Maybe there was something structural going on, and that's what actually was the motive that led to Crossing the Chasm. And we've been able to see that there are structural forces, and they can be navigated once you understand them. So what did we take away from that challenge of the chasm? It's a very interesting lesson, because at the very beginning of a startup, you really are all about celebrating the technology, and you work with people who believe what you believe, and you create kind of we call it evangelism. We create a kind of a community of belief, and that's what gets the fire started. But to get into the mainstream market, you have to appeal to pragmatic people who don't believe what you believe. So what you need to do with them is you have to figure out, I need to show them that I have something they need that will solve a problem they can't solve today. And so the Crossing the Chasm exercise was, pick one problem that is a very good fit with your crown jewels, with your specific technology. Pick one market segment, go to that market segment and build the complete solution with the customer and replicate that solution enough times that the world goes, wow, this really works. And that gets the fire started in the mainstream market. Once you have one solution that demonstrably really works, and you have radiating references who say this really works, then you can build from that to a very large enterprise and have the kind of scale that everybody wants technology to have.